You guys have got no clue how much it has taken me to film this video. Like, just everything kept on going wrong. At least my eyeshadow turned out right, which is why I didn't want to film this any other day, because I was like, yeah, but now today my eyeshadow's working out finally. Hi everybody, and welcome back to a new video on my YouTube channel, Books with Leo. I'm kind of proud of myself. I'm still sitting here. I'm also dealing with a very bad cold at the moment, and I should probably be laying in bed, which I will be doing afterwards. Anyway, this is my December wrap-up. I read 12 books in December, which is huge. It's a lot of books. I especially read a lot of graphic novels because I went to the library one afternoon and then I just read a lot of graphic novels. I also filmed that in a reading vlog, but I still have to upload it, but you guys will see it when it arrives. I don't have all the books I read with me here today. I only have 4 with me. So I have some screenshots from my 2019 reading challenge right here, so I know what I read in December. Let's get into it. I think this is one of the shortest books I've ever read. This is The Twits by Roald Dahl, and I just love the way Roald Dahl writes. It's with such childlike wonder, and it's just so whimsical and happy, and it makes me feel warm inside. And whenever I'm in a reading slump, this is always the answer. This always makes me happy. So I think a lot of people know Roald Dahl and know what these stories are about. This one is about 2 particularly gross people and their pets, their monkeys that they keep in their garden. You should read it if you want to find out more, because it is so short. You can read it in like a 1 sitting. Good for your Goodreads challenge, and also just a fun book overall. Then next up we come to all of the graphic novels that I read. First I read some Suske and Wiske. I don't know if this is like a Belgian-Dutch phenomenon only. I've got no clue, but these are short graphic novels about twins, a boy and a girl, who go on all sorts of adventures, and it's heavily influenced by Belgian culture. I think it's Belgian or French, but probably Belgian. Yeah, I read the Weer Waterman, which freely translates to the Weather Waterman, and Game of Thrones, which is a cool spin-off of Game of Thrones, the title at least. And they were both very fun, and these stories just hold a lot of nostalgic value to me because I read them as a young child. And now whenever I see them at the library, I'm just gravitating towards them, so yeah. Then I read this really beautiful graphic novel called The Adoption, which is about a young girl who is adopted by a French family, I think, from a more third world country where there was recently an earthquake, and it's really about accepting and sort of stepping over the beliefs you already have and putting aside your prejudices you have about certain things or people. A really beautiful graphic novel, beautifully illustrated as well. Next up I read Dance Academy, which is a collection of short graphic novel stories, like they're all 1 page, about girls on a dance academy. It's not very deep, it's mostly just light fun. And then the last graphic novel I read was Enola and the Kraken with a Bad Breath. I don't know, I can't read the title here. But the Enola graphic novels are just graphic novels about this girl who sort of lives in Victorian sort of steampunk kind of era, and she is like a vet but for fantasy creatures, which is a really fun concept, and I think these are more like middle grade graphic novels. They're very fun to read, and they're very short. They're like 30 pages, so you fly through them really, and they're super fun. And this one was about like an octopus monster with a very bad breath, and I don't know, the scenery especially drawn in this book is really beautiful. Then next up I read City of Ghosts by Victoria Schwab. This was a reread for me. I read City of Ghosts already I think last year, and I just love the plot and the story of this book. Next to that, I also love ghost stories overall, but especially this one. I just think the concept is amazing. It's about 2 parents who are ghost hunters, but they don't actually believe in ghosts, and then their daughter can see ghosts, so there's some beautiful irony going on there, and her best friend is also a ghost, but they think he's just like her fantasy friend. The only thing was, I listened to this on audiobook first, now I read it, and reading it, it felt very repetitive, more so than when listening to it. I think also because I immediately started the second book afterwards, it was so repetitive, couldn't get through it, it was too much of the same. But I'll definitely give the second book a try, because the first time around I read this, I absolutely loved it. Then I read The Zwendelprins by Rima Ori, which is a Dutch book, and I don't think it's translated at the moment, I'm so sorry. This is a beautiful story, it is so amazing, and it's filled with Indian culture and mystery, and it's beautifully written. Like, the scenery is gorgeous, and it really reminded me of An Amber in the Ashes by Sabaa Tahir, but in a way more original and authentic or something like that. I won't be going too much into this because most of you cannot speak Dutch, so... But if it ever gets translated, you should definitely get around to reading it. Then I read My Lady Jane by Cynthia Hand, Jodie Meadows, and Brodie Ashton, I think. This copy looks a bit battered. That's because I took it to a concert Someone dropped beer over it. I know, I'm a terrible person. I could make a whole story time on everything that happened to this book. Anyway, this is a ridiculous story, but I loved it so much. I also talked about it in my Best Books of 2019 wrap up. I won't be spending too much time talking on it now, but it's basically a universe in which people can turn into animals, and then there's people who are against that, and then there's a girl, she gets married off to a guy who also turns into a horse, and that sounds insane, but it kind of is, in the best way possible. Check out that wrap up if you want to know more. This year, I also finally got around to reading The Afterlife of Holly Chase, also by Cynthia Hand, during Christmas, because I've been wanting to read this book for years and years on end during Christmas, but I never got around to it. This is a retelling of A Christmas Carol, but then catered more towards a young audience, I'd say. It's about a girl named Holly who's really rich and also sort of famous, and she's the worst person, really. She has a terrible personality. She's very selfish, and it's just overall very bad. And then she gets selected to be the Scrooge, but she fails as a Scrooge, and then she gets sort of recruited to the Project Scrooge company to work as the ghost of Christmas past. Yeah, that's all you should know, really. It's a really nice, authentic and original spin on the original story. It was a bit shallow for me at certain points, and during the middle of the book I was constantly like, where is this going? I don't see it going anywhere good. At the same time, I felt like there would be a nice revelation at the end, so I kept on listening to it. I don't know, it wasn't my favourite book ever. Did, however, enjoy it. Then I read The Girl with the 9 Wigs by Sophie van der Stap, which is also a Dutch book. I read it in Dutch, Meisje met de 9 pruiken. I think this is translated. If you have the chance, you should definitely check it out. It's a sort of autobiography from Sophie, and she writes about her time as a cancer patient, but it's so funny. This book is hilarious, and I did not see that coming, because she's like this young girl full of life, and then she hears that she has lung cancer. That doesn't sound cheery to me at all, but then she writes about like flirting with doctors, the way she copes with her illness, all the different colourful wigs she can wear, but also the difficult things, of course, and it's just a very beautiful but also funny, with a lot of dark humour. If you like dark humour, definitely check it out. And then the last book that I read in 2019 was Inside Out by Maria V. Schneider, which is a science fiction fantasy book. I've always loved Maria V. Schneider. She's just so great at world building. I just love everything she writes. And this is a very classic YA story about a girl who lives as a sort of slave. She's working all the time in a sort of underground society. Then a rebellion starts up. It's very classic. But it sort of felt like a mix between The Hunger Games and like 1,000 High and stuff like that. I enjoyed it, but I mostly just really enjoy the way she writes. As you can notice, I'm not a very frequent wrap-up maker. My last wrap-up was in October. I'm sorry, I'm just not the kind of channel where you can expect that kind of stability for me to upload a wrap-up every month. So yeah, those were all the books I read in the last month of 2019. I hope 2020 will have amazing books on the agenda for me as well, and for you guys too. I'll see you in my next video, and I'm off to bed now because my throat is getting worse, and I don't know how I decided to film a video whilst having a cold, but I did. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.